Okay, so let's pick up where we started yesterday. It was here. So looking at all of these traumas, it's certain that if suffering is not what we are experiencing, at some level there's a sense of pain or shame or guilt, or even just a sense of like, oh, contraction, right? And there is this that's intrinsically part of life, right? And one of my most inspiring teachers is Tara Brach. Are you looking at the screen that says suffering is a call to investigate what is truly going on? Okay. And Tara Brach, she's the author of a book called Radical Acceptance. It's a book that I highly recommend if this intrigues you at all. And she has in her book, there's a quote that's very similar to this. This was my interpretation of what she said, but basically, like, whenever we feel a trigger, it is an opportunity for us to pause, reflect, go inward, and see what actually is happening. And so, the way that I've coined or phrase this in terms of spirituality is that whenever we are suffering or we feel contraction, it's a call for investigation of what is going on. And so I kind of said that Shunya's way of the way out of these 10 universal traumas of transcending the ego is obviously it would be wonderful to transcend the ego. I want to propose it in terms of nurturing our heart as a way of accessing what is deeper than the ego. So I have some pointers to this, and then we'll go into the toolbox. So when I think that investigation that we allow ourselves to take is a way of holding. In the beginning, the meditation was about embracing the breath as an embrace, the presence of our own being with our own being as this meeting, as this embrace. It's the most intimate connection that we can have. And so here are some pointers of how we can simply just transcending the ego. It's not this like amazingly impossible task at hand. It's about connection. And so here are some suggestions. First one is, especially with the overwhelmingness of media right now, let's take some time away from the phone and learn to use it wisely. I myself subscribe to that immediately because I've been using it a lot. But just take some time to be, like, to just exist. To spend time in nature. There is no excuse. Trees grow everywhere, even in cities. There's parks, there's beautiful, even the sky, is nature. Take time to be in nature. And I think to connect with the ground can be useful. It doesn't mean that you have to lay flat naked on the ground somewhere. It's just like be in nature. I know Lauren does that all the time. When I come to visit, she's like naked doing Pachamama rituals all the time. That's why she's so beautiful. She's so connected to earth. She is beautiful, but she's never done that before. Breathe deeply. Our breath is a potent gateway to our inner world. Back to this idea of this life being a miracle and each breath being like, when will the next one come? And this just tuning into the rhythms of breath and the gift that it is to be alive. And it's as simple as that. The exhalations have this amazing, it's almost like medicine for our nervous system to exhale deeply. When we are in a fight-flight response, what's the first thing that happens? We have shortness of breath. We're preparing to run away or to attack, right, or to fight. So a deep, long, focused exhale, medicine. Connect to elements. So Water has this very purifying, cleansing effect. Long showers, if you can have baths, if you can go to rivers, if you can be in the ocean, but just simply your own shower, and enjoying water as a cleansing, because there's that intimacy that we can have with ourselves. To bring beauty into our lives, I think, is a very active way of nurturing our heart, to take time to appreciate beauty. It can be whatever calls in beauty for you, like a portrait, or buying art from someone, or having flowers, or creating a garden, or ordering your room in a way that inspires beauty and safety to you. Bring in beauty into your life. There's always more beauty that we can bring into our lives. So appreciate the gift that it is to be here. This idea that I brought in meditation of abandon yourself last. Don't abandon yourself at all, but like remind yourself that you will always be there no matter what happens. And a way that we abandon ourselves is it's like not allowing us to speak our truth. And one thing is to be respectful and polite and diplomatic, and another way is to like totally cut away our truth and our vulnerability and our power. That's a way of nurturing your internal being. And then move your body. And I leave that succinct. So you see, there's no complex words there. There's no magic potency there. Move your body. The research on embodiment and somatic awareness and bodily movement, like sweat, move, breathe, stretch, do things differently. Join Kaylin's ballet beat classes. Move, connect with your body. Kaylin is a wonderful movement facilitator. Ballet beats, if you're interested. It's really simple, but the impact that it has on our system is beyond. And the research that has been growing in the last years of movement therapy and integration is just fascinating. So I live it simply because it really is that simple. I want to share with you these toolboxes that I've gathered throughout the last years of my dealing with trauma, dealing with these layers of the self. My toolbox includes meditation, and there are multiple frames for meditation. There's heart practices that I would include in meditation. If you feel curious about these practices, every Tuesday and Thursdays, I facilitate either Metta or Tonglen class that are Buddhist practices to, they're called heart practices because they're cultivating that open hearted compassion. But there's also mindfulness practices that allow you to focus on the present moment. I remember this talk that Alex and I had of a mindfulness practice of this woman who had a lot of difficulty being present in her life, and that the task that she was given, and maybe you can add on to this, Ale, but you shared with me that she was asked to just focus when she was washing dishes and be mindfully washing dishes. So the smell of soap, the way that the soap foams, the way that the water is running, like be present with that. It doesn't mean that you're going to reach the astral planes and see rainbows and unicorns and write on your astrological sign while you have a yoni egg inside of your vagina. It means like be present with your experience. You can do those things if you want as well. But meditation is as a way of connecting intimately with your heart. We spoke of language jungle. That's a Freudian slip. We talked of language as a frustrating thing, but it's also a gateway. So talking to yourself, journaling, seeing what comes up, going to therapy and seeing what comes up, and having a professional go through these dark nights of the soul with you. But above all, listen to what wants to emerge from your own heart. Communicating with yourself is, I think, a huge tool that we have. Listen to what wants to come forth. Bring awareness to karma. And by karma, I mean situations that immediately ask you to pause, reflect, and go inside. When you slam a door and it sounds loudly and it disturbs other people, when you have a car crash, when you have to get your car towed, when something doesn't go as you thought that it would be, when something, these instances, these events of daily life that ask you to immediately pause, observe, and explore what's going on. The pipes of your house are no longer working. Water is not coming into your house. That's interesting. It doesn't mean that something's wrong. It doesn't mean that you're evil and you're going to hell unless you discover what it means psychologically. No, 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 no. It just means pause, reflect, and go inside. What could this possibly be telling me? And many times what is telling us is stop, reflect, and go inside. It doesn't mean that your internal waters are not running through the divine fountain of immortality. It means observe. Then this as is principle, as is awareness of sensation through internal scanning. It's a long, long word. Don Stapleton's work on embodiment and these softer practices that allow us to feel what is happening inside. So internal scanning can be like body scans, when you scan yourself from head to toe. Awareness of sensation through internal scanning is doing a movement practice and you see, that's interesting. I feel like I'm collapsing on my right side. Or like, oh, it's difficult for me to open the heart sometimes, or my lower back is hurting. When I stretch my leg this way, it makes me cringe my eye. Like this sort of like internal observation. And then with the self-care here, self-care, all of these practices I feel fit into self-care. Hi, Teddy. I want to speak of 3 pillars for authenticity that are working for me as of lately. Very simple. Feel what is happening, listen to what is happening, and breathe into it, and then respond. Meditation, I spoke about a part of it. I just want to say that as you develop a meditation practice, it may happen, it may not, but it may happen that you don't want to sit for longer. Like it's uncomfortable, you feel like you can focus, maybe some thoughts are coming up that you don't like. My recommendation would be bring tenderness to it. Feel, listen, breathe into it, because as Thich Nhat Hanh says, no mud, no lotus. We need to go through that muck, through that density of those layers in order to bloom into the Atman. Yay, we will have a short time to talk. I'll do a free satsang soon so that we can all talk more. I want to wrap up my talk by reading you this poem that I found today on Tara Brach's talk, and I found it to be extremely beautiful and relatable to what we're talking about. It's from Pat Schneider, Instructions for the Journey. The self you leave behind is only a skin you have outgrown. Don't grieve for it. Look to the wet, raw, unfinished self, the one you are becoming, the muck. Lotus going through the muck. The world too sheds the skin. Politicians cataclysms, ordinary days. It's easy to lose this tenderly unfolding moment. Look for it as if it were the first green blade after a long winter. Listen for it as if it were the first clear tone in a place where dawn is heralded by bells. And if all that fails, wash your own dishes. Rinse them. Stand in your kitchen at your sink. Let cold water run between your fingers. Feel it. I have one more presentation to go over, but I actually feel it's complete. It feels complete to me in going through these toolboxes, because the rest is just Buddhist frameworks that I can send you a pre-recorded video that I have on it, because I would love to use this 10 minutes to integrate together, hear from you, and especially if you have something that feels a little bit unclear that you would like to clarify, so that you walk out of it feeling complete, or at least curious, clear on that is maybe creating confusion. And then I would love to have you join meditations and have that consistency if there's more questions to be said or more explorations. So floor is open.
Hi, Prema. I just want to say thank you so much for.
Kaylin, you are muted. Or maybe I was mute. Maybe I could not hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can. Maybe it was that my volume was off. Sorry.
That's okay. I just wanted to say thank you so much. And I do find I get little bits that I get, and I'm like, okay, and I can feel this tangible experience and relate everything back to my life. But I feel like this could be like a year-long course. Like, there's so much amazing information that you're, bringing into into my life, which I have never really experienced any of this before. So it is a bit overwhelming because I'm like, there's so much, and just kind of allowing it to sit and settle. So I really appreciate the openness to letting anyone come and like you said, start to just take what resonates and leave the rest, and maybe it'll come later. I also appreciate all of the resources that you've shared throughout, because I know for me, I'm really curious now. I'm like, okay, I want to do the work and get to know myself on a deeper level. Um, and all of the examples you gave were beautiful as well, to really put it into this easier to understand, because it is complex. We are complex beings. So it is complex and meant to be. So I really appreciate all of that. Just openness to let us feel comfortable with not understanding things, and the curiosity to go deeper and explore on our own. And then also, yeah, just little moments where I'm like, okay, I think I'm getting this. Like I think I understand where this is going, and I really appreciate that. So I'm leaving this workshop very curious and excited to continue this journey. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Kaylin. I appreciate that. And if anything, I would say that that is the purpose of these spaces, to inspire curiosity and to inspire a desire to connect deeply to ourselves and what is happening in our lives, and um, understanding what may be inhibiting us from shining to the extent that we could. So when you tell that, to me, it feels complete, because this is not like a therapeutical healing context. It is made, it is healed when we can sit with it and grow with it, right? So it makes me feel complete. Thank you so much for saying that. And I would love to create a year-long course from it. I'll meet with you separately to discuss that, and how you've created ballet beats as a whole course. Thank you.
And to everyone also for being here. It's also really inspiring just to see other people with a desire to learn more as well. It's really special to be in this with all of you. So thank you.
And please know that if, as Kaylin said, some of this material may be overwhelming, or it may be a lot, or it may feel complex, and I myself don't have all the answers, of course, but I have resources, and so if there is more clarity on something that you want to share with me in the coming days, feel free to reach out. I love creating bridges between people and information, so it would be like a total joy to create bridges for more information.
Prem. Bueno, I would also like to thank you deeply for this 2 evenings, which were amazing. It was really a beauty of a workshop, just getting to know and kind of listening to another side of the same diamond, as you said yesterday. Just, hearing about like the exploration of the human mind through, or the human experience through this transcendence, and it was just beautiful. It was really, really, really beautiful. I loved it. And I also wanted to add how there's been, well, in the toolbox, in something that has been my experience, radical responsibility. I don't know if anyone has heard about that, but it has been something that has definitely changed the way I relate to myself and to, of course, others in the world, which is kind of like just beginning by the fact that I am, completely responsible for me, for my traumas, for healing myself, for like being the best version of the person that I am meant to be. Just how hard that is, because we really, really, really want the world to cut us some slack, and it's not possible. If we really want to like grow, it's not possible. We have to be very radically responsible with what we need to heal, with like our bullshit and also with our patterns and or our karma, as you said. And it just like all of this brought me like this memory of a fight that I just recently had with my boyfriend. We fought over a very tiny dumb thing, like finances, like a purchase. And he didn't tell me that, that he had a problem with it. So I had no way of knowing. And so the fight, like the fight happened. And in the middle of it, I was able to like step back and say like, oh my God, I mean, I can see that there was an absence of responsibility on his part by not telling me, right? And I was about to like tell him that. And this sense of like, I don't know what it is, just sort of like put me back, and I restrained from telling him what his responsibilities were, which is something that we do so much with like everyone, with our moms, with our siblings, with our partners, with our friends, with like everyone. And I just said like, okay, well, I need to take responsibility for like my part, which is, you know, I understand in his perspective, you know, like what you said with Mike, like I can see how in his perspective I was wrong. And so I took responsibility for that and kind of like just bit my tongue. And after a couple of hours or a little bit more, he came up to me and he was like, you know what, I'm really sorry. I never told you about, you know, how I didn't feel comfortable with that purchase. And I should have told you that. And it's my fault. I have to like be more vocal. And so it's just like, it was like this lesson to myself, you know, about how we can actually, like we open space for others, you know, to be responsible when we just let them, and how we can also open space for ourselves to be responsible for, you know, for our traumas when we just let ourselves, you know, we're so caught up with like pointing fingers and like finding, you know, who's guilty, or like solving, you know, that's like the most common one, just trying to solve constantly. And how important it is to like try to, you know, just step back and kind of like give space for whatever has to come.
Mhm.
So yes, thank you so much, because this workshop was enriching. It brought me so many reflections and it was just pure beauty. Thank you.
Yeah, I also want to thank you, Andre, because I feel like, well, especially today that I was reading your email and I read this specific question that says, how does self-sabotage look like in my case? And in that moment, I realized how important your class yesterday and today has been, because I don't know, you met me like maybe like 10 years ago, and I feel like in that moment I was so different, but much more aware of myself that I'm than what I've been like in the past years. Um, like I lost it a lot, and it was mostly because I was like, okay, I need to do well in school, and I was happy, but not with this awareness that we have talked about yesterday and today. So uh, I don't know, it really motivates me to start again with what I knew when I was 14, and how I've changed like in these years. So yeah, thank you.
Amazing. Thank you. And it is amazing because having the realization of that, it means that you are aware. Does that make sense? Like there is no falling short or falling back. Your attention was somewhere else because you had particular responsibility to fulfill, which is natural,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so the fact that you can see, oh, I would like to actually direct my energy to be more inquisitive and present to my own experience, just that is so magical, right? Because that opens gateways that before weren't it opens options that before you couldn't see.
Yeah, no, it's like really amazing. Like I know that person is there because like I have books that I used to read, and I would like highlight and take notes, and nowadays I read them and I was like, I was so deep, like and so young,
Okay, but
like it's incredible.
tell me what does Joey's from that age has that you feel like you don't have right now?
I think the tools that you talked about, especially like I lost those because I, like you said, I put my focus on something else. But I would do that so much, and like I'm motivated to do that all over again. So it's pretty cool.
So the interest, she had the
Yeah.
interest to connect. Correct?
Yep, the interest. It's literally that, I think so. Because I also have like this journal and stuff written down like 2013, 2014, and I've written some stuff, but it's like I wanna like go back to that. So mainly interest, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I asked that question because, as I mentioned before, it's so easy for us to want to have a form of how depth or meaning looks like. And I am projecting because I myself have journal entries from when I was at the ashram of like pages of depth. And I don't journal as much right now. I do journal, but not nearly as much. But that doesn't mean that I'm not deep anymore. And so I'm asking, what is it that Jolie's of the past had that you're longing for right now? Because the quality is what will bring something beautiful, not the form, not the practices are amazing. I'm not saying don't practice anything at all. Of course, do what you want, read what you want, journal what you want. But focus on what is it that you feel that she had that you would like to activate right now. The interest, the willingness, the desire to connect, the desire to be you, right? Does that make sense? So if you don't journal, that's not a problem. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, good. Because I have a perfectionist tendency that in the past I used to feel more spiritual when I did this, and so I'm trying to do it right now, but it just doesn't fit because the person who I am today is no longer who I was in the past, but the spirit, that's where it is. But by all means, do whatever you like, you feel that would be useful. It may be the same.
Yeah. I don't know if it is the same. That's what I want to like explore because I don't feel the same motivation as before. So I don't know. It's just a matter of figuring it out.
Beautiful. Keep listening and breathing and feeling. Well, alas, we come to the end of this workshop. This is, as Alexa said, and I love, like, it was really beautiful to connect with all of you and share these frameworks that have been very helpful to me on my journey. And it feels very satisfying to at least spark a light. So feel free to connect, to write. You're more than welcome to come to the meditations Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I'm here if you have any questions or comments. I hope you have a restful sleep and that you can find those nurturing practices throughout the final weekday and the weekend. Namaste. I love these emojis. I don't know how to do them. They're so cute. Good night, everybody.